Actually, I created a little school. Ours. That's maybe a bit different from most other schools, is that there aren't any grades. There's no like not grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 type of thing. I'm making all the children go in the same grade at the same time, like an assembly line.
I know.
You know, because some people love English or languages, some people love math, some people love music, and they have different abilities at different times. It makes more sense to cater the education to match their aptitudes and abilities. So I think that's one principle to do it.
Have they surprised you in a way of their innovative thinking?
Yeah, it seems to be going pretty well. I mean, the kids really love going to school. I think that's a good sign. You know, I mean, I hated going to school when I was a kid. It was torture. So the fact that they actually think vacations are too long, like they want to go back to school.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's weird.
I know.
How do we know that we are fulfilling your vision? I said, see, the school is in 4-month segments. So after the 4 months are over, when children have to go home, if they're tearing up to go home, that means you're doing well. And when they come to school, if they come joyfully, for sure you're doing well. At least 15 to 20% of the children come back to school when the vacation is on, come back to school at least a week, 10 days, sometimes 2 to 3 weeks early, because they want to be a part of setting up the school. Because they believe it's their school and they're part of it.
Space, automotive, finance, energy, you've disrupted major industries. What would you do if you had a free reign over education?
Well, I think that the way that we currently do education is wrong, and when you see something like the Khan Academy and so forth, I think that's probably going in the right direction. I mean, generally you want education to be like as close to a video game as possible, like a good video game. Like, you do not need to tell your kid to play video games. They will play video games on autopilot all day. So if you can make it interactive and engaging, then you can make education far more compelling and far easier to do. So I think that's how it should be, and it shouldn't be that you've got like these grades where people move in lockstep, and so everyone goes through, you know, goes like normally, you know, we'll go through English, math, science and so forth from like 5th grade to 6th grade to 7th grade, like it's an assembly line. But people are not objects on an assembly line. That's a ridiculous notion. People learn and are interested in different things at different paces. So you really want to disconnect the whole grade level thing from the subjects. Allow people to progress at the fastest pace that they can or are interested in each subject. It seems like a really obvious thing. I mean, I think like most teaching today is a lot like vaudeville, where and as a result, it's just not that compelling. It's like somebody standing up there and lecturing to you, and they've done the same lecture several years in a row. They're not necessarily all that engaged or in doing it. And you compare that to, say, Batman: The Dark Knight, okay? And then you've got like the world's best special effects. You've got the world's best director, screenwriter, multiple cuts, amazing, you know, editing, and that's amazing. But like, imagine if instead you had like the local town aspiring actor do a one-person play version of that.
Yeah.
That would not be compelling.
Yeah. Do you agree with Peter Thiel about the unnecessariness of university, higher education?
I do agree with Peter's point that a university education is often unnecessary. That's not to say it's unnecessary for all people, but I think you probably learn about as much, or the vast majority of what you're going to learn there in the first 2 years, and most of it is from your classmates. Because you can always buy the textbooks and just read them. Like, nobody's stopping you from doing that.
Or go online.
Or go online. Yeah. Now for a lot of companies, they do want to see the completion of the degree, because they're looking for someone who's going to persevere and see it through to the end, and that's actually what's important to them. So it really depends on what somebody's goal is. If the goal is to start a company, I would say no point in finishing college. In my case, I had to, otherwise I'd get kicked out of the country.
Yeah.
So that was important. But
Although you went on and got a master's degree as well, right?
I came out to Silicon Valley to do a PhD at Stanford in applied physics and material science to work on ultracapacitors for use in electric cars. And that's what I was going to do, and then I decided to put that on hold to start a company. But since I already had my undergrad, I could then get an H-1B visa and that kind of thing. So the H-1B visa requires a degree. But other than that, I would have, if that wasn't the case, I probably would have stopped education sooner.
Did you not go to Wharton for?
Yeah. I did dual undergrad in physics and business at Wharton.
I see.
Yeah, but it was undergrad.
And also, even machines are taking a lot of functions away from us. There are still functions that we have to, deliver ourselves. For example, fatherhood.
Sure.
So how would you educate your 5 boys?
Actually, I created a little school. Yeah.
What kind of school? Could you describe to us?
Sure. It's small. It's only got 14 kids now, and it'll have 20 kids in September. It's called Ad Astra, which means to the stars. That's maybe a bit different from most other schools, is that there aren't any grades. There's no like not grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 type of thing. Making all the children go in the same grade at the same time, like an assembly line.
I know.
Because some people love English or languages, some people love math, some people love music, and they have different abilities at different times. It makes more sense to cater the education to match their aptitudes and abilities. So I think that's one principle. Another is that it's important to teach problem solving, or teach to the problem, not to the tools. So this would be like, let's say you're trying to teach people about how engines work, or you could start by a more traditional approach would be to say, well, we're going to teach you all about screwdrivers and wrenches, and you're going to have a course on screwdrivers, a course on wrenches, and all these things. And this is a very difficult way to do it. A much better way would be like, here's the engine. Now let's take it apart. How are we going to take it apart? Oh, you need a screwdriver. That's what the screwdriver is for. You need a wrench. That's what the wrench is for. And then a very important thing happens, which is that the relevance of the tools becomes apparent.
So all your 5 boys are in that school?
Yes.
Until when? This is from
I don't know.
preschool
So far
to...
it's only 1-year-old. They like it.
They like it?
Yeah.
And you want to keep them away from regular schools?
No, I just didn't see that the regular schools, they weren't doing the things that I thought should be done. Like, those 2 principles, they weren't adhering to those principles. So I thought, well, let's see what we can do. Maybe creating a school will be better. And I actually hired a teacher from the school they were at, who also agreed with me that there was a better way to do it.
Have they surprised you in a way of their innovative thinking?
Yeah, it seems to be going pretty well. The kids really love going to school. I think that's a good sign. I hated going to school when I was a kid. It was torture. So the fact that they actually think vacations are too long, like they want to go back to school.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's weird.
I know.
Describe to us some of the different philosophies that you use and that your teachers use in the school that you have for children in South India, and what we can learn from those approaches relative to the Western approaches.
See, people are different segments of people put their children to school for different reasons. So I set up 3 different systems of schooling. One, I think, was there on this video, which is rural schooling. Here the issue is, these are impoverished societies. Children are trapped in a situation where unless they get education, which is English-based, and they have some technological capabilities, they can't get out of that pit. They will be in the same place for always, their entire life. So this is essentially job-oriented kind of education. This is in rural areas, in remote places. We run these schools, and we also adopt government schools in the rural areas and see how to improve them. We have another school called Isha Home School. This is for the affluent children. This runs in a 120-acre property, very spread out, with 10,000 square miles of forest behind us. Because I think it's a crime to have children in rooms and rooms and rooms, and within that they're doing. One of the most important thing for the growth of a child is that there must be exposure to nature, to elements. Because without a healthful body, there is no healthy mind. It cannot happen. Your brain is body, yes? Brain is body, isn't it? We are always referring to it as if it's something different. What happens here will definitely happen here, how will it not happen? So this is a unique sort of school where 20 children will live in a household along with 2 dedicated people, and they grow up with them. Almost all the teaching happens in the house except for libraries, laboratories and playgrounds. Everything else is within the house, that's why it's called a home school, till they come to 7th standard. After that, they go to the high school within the premises. This school is run with a very close interaction with… we don't call them teachers, they're just volunteers who are there. Highly educated people, but none of them are trained to be teachers, because we don't want them to bring systems of education. This is just to stimulate the child in such a way that he is longing to know. The incredible thing is, we set them up into that level of curiosity and wanting to learn. Many times these 6, 7-year-olds come and knock on teachers' doors at 10:30, 11 in the night because they're doing some project and they can't sleep. They want to know this now, they want to open one particular book and see what is there in that book. We've made the teachers in such a way that even if it's 10:30, 11, they'll open the library and sit with them and what he wants to know. This is like a home-like atmosphere, where for every 4.5 children, on an average, every 4.5 children we have 1 adult. Here there are no rigid rules, but everything is managed without saying anything. For example, there is no holidays in this school. But we've decided in a month there are 4 to 5 days which is off academics, but children will never know which day it is. It just happens one day. Today they started singing, today becomes all music, tomorrow we were talking about something, so today they're going to that day they're going to the forest, but they don't know which day is a break. Because we don't want this culture of thank God it's Friday. If you don't enjoy learning, then what's the point? See, for any human being, knowing something new, stimulation of one's mind and intellect is one of the greatest joys. If that doesn't come into the child's life, he's waiting when is the break. When I actually started this school, when I spoke to a group of volunteers, said, this is what we need to do. I spoke to them about 6, 7 hours and said, this is what we need to do. Then they all looked at me and said, Sadhguru, how do we know that we are fulfilling your vision? I said, see, the school is in 4-month segments. So, after the 4 months are over, when children have to go home, if they're tearing up to go home, that means you're doing well. And when they come to school, if they come joyfully, for sure you're doing well. This is unbelievable, I don't think it happens in any other school. At least 15 to 20% of the children come back to school when the vacation is on, come back to school at least a week, 10 days, sometimes 2 to 3 weeks early because they want to be a part of setting up the school. Because they believe it's their school and they're part of it and they want to be involved. And many of these students, we've made them into student teachers, that weekly 1 class or 2 class, 1 or 2 hours in a week, they take the subjects. What is taught to you, you may easily forget, but what you teach, you never forget, you know. And above all, there is a new sense of responsibility once you stand up there as a teacher and do it. There are rewards for it, they get more emailing, you know, internet time. Otherwise, one important thing which is very important for the children is, at 11 o'clock in the morning, there is a juice break. Children will all drink juice outside. Teachers will sit in the staff room and have juice, and they have some discussions going at that time for about half an hour. These children who take the responsibility of teaching, they get into the staff room, sit with the teachers and drink juice, which is a very big thing for them. They are like staff, they get treated like adults, totally. So things like these incentives where there is an excitement about learning. And normally, what is 12 years, I made it 13 years. In India, it's 10 plus 2, that's a schooling system. I made it 10 plus 3 for the same this thing. Initially, people said, why should we spend 1 year extra? I said, it's up to you. Because we've invested so much in art, sport, theatre, many other extracurricular activities. The moment they come to 11th, 12th, generally in India, they get marks mad. They want to get marks because passing marks in India is 98. There are universities where children who got 100 out of 100, they don't get admission. It's just crazy. So I said, those who are marks mad can go elsewhere, but we want to consolidate all the talents that they've picked up, plus we're exposing them to leadership, management, various types of industry, and many other aspects of life which would not happen in school normally. So this school is run for the affluent children. This kind of schooling costs quite a lot. But the other type of school that we have is, here there is no academics of any kind. Here the focus is just on building human body and human brain to its fullest. We have methodologies, traditional methodologies through which we do. Here they learn yoga, kalari. Kalari is the mother of all martial arts, which is an elaborate system of developing the body, a classical martial arts, classical Indian music, South Indian music, classical dance, Sanskrit language, where it has the widest range of sounds to be used. We use the sound in a very effective way to develop the neurological system in the child. A wide range of sounds. This is something that doesn't happen to English-speaking children. They must do other kinds of sounds because expressing or uttering the sounds does wonderful things to neurological system. You will see these children are so balanced, means they're super balanced. If they sit like this cross-legged, they can simply sit like this for 5–6 hours unmoving. You will rarely see children like that. So these children go through 12 years. Once they enter, 12 years is compulsory because they are not going through other forms of education. We have workshops where they learn banking, accountancy, a little bit of mathematics and a little bit of engineering and science, but that's only for practical purposes. But essentially, this is focused towards building human body and human brain to its fullest capability. And we are putting them through certain kinds of evaluations to see whether this is happening to them or not. These are incredible children. Till you see them, you won't believe this, how these kids are. They are very extraordinary children. They're not qualified for anything. People ask me, how will they go to the university? They are not made for the university, they are made for the universe, because that's where you have to live.
What's your opinion on the current education system? When I asked people on Twitter what they wanted to ask you, this question came up a couple times, which was, how would you fix it? What's your opinion on the education system? What are your thoughts around that?
I think there's no question it's completely obsolete. The education system is a path-dependent outcome from the need for daycare, from the need for prisons for college-age males who would otherwise overrun society and cause a lot of havoc. The original medieval universities had guard towers that faced inwards, for example.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because you have to put a curfew in there, and you have to lock up the young 18-year-old males before they go out with swords and daggers and create trouble. So college and schools and the way we think about them, they come from a time period when books were rare, knowledge was rare. Babysitting was rare, crime was common, violence was prevalent. There was no such as self-guided learning. So I think schools are just byproducts of these kinds of institutions. And now we have the internet. which is the greatest web of knowledge ever created, completely interconnected. So it's very, very easy to learn. If you actually have the desire to learn, everything is on the internet. You can go on Khan Academy, you can get MIT and Yale lectures online, you can get all the coursework, you can get interactivity, you can read blogs by brilliant people, you can read all these great books. So the ability to learn, the means of learning, the tools of learning are abundant and infinite. It's a desire to learn that's incredibly scarce. So I just don't think that schools matter for self-motivated students. What the schools matter for is, one is they keep the kids out of the parents' hair while the parents go to work. It creates socialization because kids want to be around their peers and they want to learn how to operate in society of their peers. But I think if it's purely learning you're after, that learning can be done much more either on your own or through the internet, or by uniting through the internet with like-minded groups. So I think that's one problem with the current educational system. The second problem is, what do you choose to learn? And the current educational system has to have a one-size-fits-all model. It has to say, well, you have to learn X now, and then you have to learn Y. And to give you examples of where this is obsolete, memorization. Right? In a day and age of Google and smartphones, memorization is obsolete. Why should you be memorizing the Battle of Trafalgar? Why should you be memorizing what the capital of this or that state is? But we still put undue weight on that just because that's the way it's always been done. And we lived in a pre-Google world. Another example is how when we're moving along at a certain pace, I'm sure, not everyone, but I'm sure 90% of your listeners have had this happen to them, which is they were learning mathematics, and at some point they were keeping up. They were doing arithmetic, then they were doing geometry, then they did trigonometry, then they did pre-calc, then they did calc. And somewhere in there, they got lost. Somewhere in there, while building the massive edifice, the logical structure that mathematics is, they missed one lesson, they missed one concept, they missed 5 classes, or their brain couldn't think a certain way that something was being explained to them. It should have been explained visually, but it was being explained numerically, or it should have been explained symbolically, and it was being explained in cartography, what have you. But they were not able to keep up. And the moment you lose that rung in mathematics, the moment you miss that rung in the ladder, you can't go to the next one. Because now in the next one, the teacher's like, okay, we're done with pre-calculus, now we're moving on to calculus. And you're saying, wait, I didn't understand pre-calculus. And I understand how pre-calculus leads from trigonometry to calculus. I missed that whole part. So now you get to calculus, you don't understand the fundamentals, and now you reduce to memorization. So now you're like, oh, okay, dx, dy, when I see that symbol, I do this. Yeah. But now you've lost the actual learning. You've lost the connection to the underlying principles. Yep. So I think learning should be about learning the basics in all the fields and learning them really well over and over, because life is mostly about applying the basics and only doing the advanced stuff in the things that you truly love and where you understand the basics inside out. But that's not how our system is built. We teach all these kids calculus and they walk out not understanding calculus at all, when really they would have been better off served just doing arithmetic and basic computer programming the entire time. So I think there's a pace of learning issue. And then there's finally what to learn. And there's a whole set of things we don't even bother trying to teach. We don't teach nutrition. We don't teach cooking. We don't teach how to be in happy, positive relationships. We don't teach how to keep your body healthy and fit. We just say sports. We don't teach happiness. We don't teach meditation. Maybe we shouldn't teach some of these things because different kids will have different aptitudes, but maybe we should. Maybe we should teach practical construction of technology and like maybe everyone in their science project, instead of building a little chemistry volcano, maybe you should be building a smartphone, right? So we just haven't kept up. And I have to believe that we can change the system, but you never change a system by taking the existing thing and reworking it. I don't believe. I've been in Silicon Valley and tech business long enough to know that you're better off changing it just by creating something brand new. So one fantasy idea I've had is, after I'm done with AngelList, or if I had more time on my hands, I would like to create a successor to the One Laptop project. In MIT, Nicholas Negroponte had the One Laptop per Child project. Yep. But then I saw this fascinating write-up, and this is really a long time ago, maybe even 5 years ago, maybe it was in The Economist or somewhere. And it was a story about how they left a box full of unopened Android tablets in a little village in Pakistan. And when they came back months later, The kids have opened up the box. They've all figured out how to boot up the tablets. They've hacked them. They've gotten past the user administration root login. They've installed a whole bunch of apps. They've got a little economy set up. The older kids are teaching the younger kids. They're teaching their grandmothers how to run businesses. They're surfing the web. They've taught themselves English. Kids are learning machines. They just need the tools. So to that end, what I would love to do is create a very low cost, very rugged, easily powered, cheap Android tablet that's hard to destroy, and basically distribute them around the world with pre-built learning applications so that you can literally fire one up and it works with you interactively in 30 seconds and figures out what language do you speak, if any, or you can just be symbolic, and what level of aptitude are you at? Are you a second grader, third grader, fifth grader? And of course, it varies by different discipline. And then it lets you dive into and let you learn anything you want that will make your life better.
Just
and
on
going
the
back
edge
to
of
my
your
original
competency.
Exactly. And it always keeps you on the edge and it always keeps pushing you. And then you can network in all the teachers of the world. So anyone who wants to be a teacher can contribute. It's not just Salman Khan doing Khan Academy. But essentially, you could network connect all the teachers of the world and all the students of the world using tablets and do it at a pace and level where it's essentially customized for each child. And they're learning the things that have a practical outcome in their life. And I know there's an advantage of liberal arts education, pushing things that people don't necessarily want to learn on their own, but they have to have some desire for it. It's better to wait until they think they're ready and then give it all to them. Because I think that's the way that learning sticks. So that's the kind of project I like to work on, but I don't think it's solvable with the current school system.
I hope you get a chance to work on that. I think that'd be a phenomenal impact to the world.
Yeah, I think it would be fun, and I'm thinking about this now more because I have a young infant son, and honestly, I don't want to send him to school.